Welcome csc102 class. I'm just going to review a quick exercise. It's actually the resume, the WD02 resume exercise. I'm going to do it in Google Docs just so you can see that it can be done in Google Docs. There's some things that we can't do in Google Docs and we won't be able to do all our exercises there, but I'm just going to show you that you will find most of your operations and settings in Google Docs just in different places. So I'm going to do that right now. I have a folder in my Google Drive called csc102w1, and in there I have a Word version of the file for resume, and right now it's still a docx. So if I see it down here, it's known as a docx. So it's not a Google Docs yet. It still has a W on it. So I'm going to double click on it and open it, and it'll say open in Google Docs, and I'll do that. And when you do that, it's still a Word file. It's still saying that it's opening up in Word. And what I want to do here is just go to File and say Save as Google Docs. And that will convert it to a Google Docs file, and you'll start to see something here like called add-ons, and that will make sure that it saves incrementally and it'll treat it as a Google Docs file, and it also won't count to your file storage on Google Drive. So now it's a Google Docs document, and I see add-ons, and it's important I see add-ons. I'm going to close this one, and I'm even going to rename this. So I'll go in here and I'll rename it, and I'll just put Homa R. I'll put my name, and then I'm going to go to add-ons because they don't have show hide. And I'm going to go to add-ons, and I do have, I'm not seeing it right now, so I should see some add-ons here, and I'm going to go to get add-ons, and I'm just going to go to show, and I'm going to look for show, and I'm going to see this thing. Now, it doesn't get real good reviews. It's not really great. Matter of fact, I already installed it, and it's already not showing up. So it's not a great add-on, but it's the only one that shows and hides the formatting marks. This says uninstall, so I'm going to uninstall the app, and then I'm going to install it, because for some reason it seems to go away and then come back. So I'm going to do that first, but you could probably just install it. And now I'm going to install it again. And I'll hit all the OKs here. And then I'll allow. And after all that, this thing's finally done. And what you should do, you should be able to go to add-ons and say show all, which will be all the formatting marks. And there it goes. So all that just for that, just to see the formatting marks, which should be built in there anyway, but for some reason it's not. So you have to use an add-on to do that. But anyway, getting back to this, we're going to format this real quick, and I'm going to follow the instructions just out of my head from the instructions. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to make it 11 point. And I'm going to align it right, which they have alignment over here. Now they don't show each alignment, so you have to use the little drop down and use that one. So that's what we do first. And then we highlight Benjamin Okamoto, and we're going to make him 24 point. And we're going to make him bold italic, which we could do that in Word. And then we're going to give him a space before. Now you might be like, where's space before? And where you can find that, you could find it under Format. You could also go to this thing, which you'll see this on Mac. This is where you'd actually open up the paragraph formatting on a Mac. Now, you don't have as many options. And if you see Add Space Before, don't even use that. Just use Custom Spacing. That way, you can go down here to Space Before, and I'll put in 24. And that's what I'm going to do, and I'll hit Apply. So that's Space Before, and I'll do that. And that's what you want to do right there. And then if you want to put that line underneath, that's actually under Format. If you go to Format and it's Paragraph Styles, Borders and Shading, and you would go to Borders and Shading on a Mac and on Windows to do that, although it's easier to find because you have an option for Borders and Shading. So I'll go to Borders and Shading, and I want to use a bottom border, so I'm going to click on this one, and it says 1 point. In your instructions it says 0.5 point, which you can do. You can use 0.5 point. And I'll do that, and they even have some padding you can add to that here, but I'll just leave it at what it is, and I'll hit Apply, and that looks okay. The 2-point padding is underneath the J there, so that's actually what I want. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to my paragraph formatting, and each time just go to Custom, and I'm going to do 24, and I'll hit Apply. And then I'll go to Experience, and notice I don't have to highlight the paragraph, I just have to put in my cursor, and then I'll go here again to that little up and down arrow, Custom Spacing, and down here again to 24, and I'll hit Apply. And I'll do that for awards, just clicking in my cursor. I'll do it for activities, and then I'll do it for volunteer work. And now I have my spacing in there, so it breaks things up nicely. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight everything from down here and set a tab. Now, in the instructions, you might have done that first, but it doesn't really matter. Now, to set a tab in Google Docs, we're not going to go to any tabs feature. We're just going to go right here to 1.75, and I'm just going to click right on the ruler, and it says Add Left Tab Stop. And that's all I'm going to do. And if you're not sure where it is, just kind of move it around, and there it is, 1.75, and that's all you need. And that means a tab stop means you're just putting like a placeholder there. And the reason these are going there is because there already is a tab character there. And if you didn't have that show hide on, you wouldn't know that that's a tab character. That little arrow there is a tab character. So then what I could do is go here and put a tab character. I'm just going to click right before the C and hit tab. And I'm going to go right before the AA and hit a tab. And I'm going to go before intern and hit a tab. It might not say on the instructions, but you could do that. Skip these because we're going to put a bullet list there. And then go to computer science and hit a tab. And then here we're going to do tab, tab, tab. So they're all jumping to the tab. Down here, leave this alone because we can't use a tab here because it would push volunteer work over. And if you did this, it's going to mess it up because this should wrap nicely. We're going to use a hanging indent down here, so leave that alone. So the next part we're going to do here, everything looks okay so far. And I think the next step here is highlighting this, and we're going to put this in a bullet list. Now, a bullet list in Google Docs is over here. So I'm just going to click on it and see what happens. Now, it's not in the right location. We want the bullets here, and then we want the hanging indent. Now, by hanging, we mean that all the text wraps underneath the letters, the first sentence, not over underneath the bullet. And what we could do here, if you look at these two little icons here, that's the left indent, the one that's out there. And you can see it's already moved in a 1/4 inch. Word will do that too. And then this one is about a 1/4 inch from the bullet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to about here, about a 1/4 inch in, and you can see they're moving together. So I actually want to line them up with that 1.75, and that's exactly where it is. If that's not perfect, you could try to move this one back a little bit, and you could even move this back just slightly, although they move together when you drop the bottom one, which is okay. And I think that looks okay because you want them there. So you want to make sure that this one, again, is at 1.75. So that's good. The hanging indent part, even if you see that in Word, is the distance from the bullet to where the text starts. And then the text will wrap here. And then the left indent is where the bullet is. So the left indent got moved over to 1.75, the same place where all the tabs are. So everything lines up nicely. Now, one thing you could do here with these lines that are a little longer, while these paragraphs are highlighted, you could even bring in the right indent just a little bit, and it'll make those lines break a little better. And you can do shift return. We recommend doing that sometimes because remember, if you go here and you want home on another line, if you hit enter or if you hit return, it's going to make a new bullet, and you don't want that. So what you want is a shift return to do that. And it's not even showing you the shift return icon there, but that's called a line break when you hold down shift and you hit your return. It breaks the line, but it doesn't make a new paragraph. And with bullet numbering, it doesn't make a new bullet. So that works too, although what we did here is we just moved the indent over so they all kind of break nicely. We're going to do that at the bottom too. And if you want to put any space in here, you could highlight through these 3 paragraphs, these 3 bullet paragraphs. And again, go to the same place where spacing is, which is this thing. And again, just go to custom. And I'm going to do a space of like 4 before. That's 4 point. It's not saying, but we're going to use that. And I'll hit apply. And you can see it spread out these paragraphs. It did not use line spacing. It did not increase the line spacing of each paragraph. It put space between. So there's 4 point, 4 point, 4 point space before. Just like in these, there's 24 point, 24 point, 24 point, 24 point space before. And there's also 24 point space before here. So we just did the same thing here, just a little bit less. So that looks okay. Now, one other thing we're going to do here, we're going to make this italic. And again, I'm not sure if it's the right order as the instructions, but we're going to make that italic. And then we're going to set a second tab here. Now, we already have a tab, so I'm going to set one at 6. Now, I'm going to get close to 6 because there's a right indent there, and it's kind of hard to click on it. So I'm going to click right in front of it. And I'm going to click, and it says Add Right Tab Stop. That's what I'm going to choose so that it aligns there, and all the other text kind of goes the other direction. So I'm going to make a right tab stop. And there it is. Now that's not the right indent, it's a tab stop, so I'll move that down a little bit, get it as close to 6 as I can. If it's not right on 6, that's okay, because it's right on where the indent is. So I'll click on that, and then we have 2 tabs. There's one tab that takes it to the 1.75, and then the second tab moves it over. Now if you didn't put a tab here, and this might be moved over like that, you might have to hit your tab key and bump everything over. Because remember, the tab goes to where the tab stop is, and if you don't put a tab character in there, it doesn't go there. Okay, so moving down to the end, the last thing we have to do here is we're going to do a hanging indent because we don't want to tab this stuff over. And we can't indent it either because we don't want volunteer work to get moved over. So what we want to do is if we can possibly grab the bottom. See, that's the hanging indent, the bottom one here. If you can grab that bottom one and move this over. Now it's saying left indent, so when you move it over, everything's moving over. And then if you could go up and grab the top one, if possible, it's really hard to do here. There, I got it, that little square thing. If I move that over to the end as far as I can, that'll work. That does a hanging indent. So that little square thing moves it over. Now it's, that's why it's nice in Word that we can use the settings, because these little arrows are hard to work with in here. If I zoom into them, you could see them a little bit better, but the one is a tab, one is the hanging indent, and this is the left indent up here, or the first line, because now the first line is out here and the hanging indent is here. But really, the left indent is out here. That's really what's happening. And then there's a hanging that's down here. And you can see this is a little bit off. So I'm going to grab that one and move it so it aligns a little bit better. And it looks like my tab might have got moved a little too. So let me move that tab over so they're right on top of each other, which is hard to do. Again, you don't have a lot of room in this ruler. So that's what you want down here. And again, if you have life on that word life is on its own line like that, it doesn't look good. Now you could go down here and click here and do shift return. And so that way you have two words on the last line, which looks better. That's a shift return, a line break. Or if you go in this paragraph, and I'm in this paragraph because there's only one paragraph. Here's the paragraph icon. You can go here to the right indent and just move this a little. And that kind of did the same thing. You could even move it a little bit more. And that's just saying for that paragraph, we're going to indent from the right, and that's shortening that paragraph so it just reads a little bit better. And we did that up here too. So that's all you really have to do here. You could go here and make these bold, just these headings here. You could make these bold. Sometimes people might change the font, put it in a sans serif font or something like that, but keeping it in Times is fine. Any other fonts, you might try Calibri. Calibri is a sans serif font, but that might look nice. There's nothing wrong with Calibri. It's a nice readable sans serif font, and I'm putting this in bold. So just for example, now sometimes it changes things, but even if you just tried this and you said, I'm going to try Calibri. He mentioned something about Calibri. Here's Calibri. And that doesn't look bad. That's a sans serif font. You can see it doesn't have the little feet on the fonts. The italics don't look quite as nice, but it is a very readable font. So there's nothing wrong with Calibri if you wanted to try that out. That looks fine. And I think in instructions too, I mentioned making some of these headings bold. So, that might make certain things stand out. The idea is that we would have more experience here than just one, but for a short resume, this looks nice and clean. Everything's broken down into little areas. And again, if you wanted to use Calibri, that's fine. If you wanted to highlight this and just go back and put it in the Times, that's fine as well. And that's all you have to do. Now, you could send me a link to this. If you happen to do it in Google Docs, you could download it and then upload it into My Warren normally. So it is saved already. But if you wanted to share it or download it, so you could go here to download, and you could download it as a Microsoft Word document. And let's see, if I right-click on this, does it tell me where to save it? Looks like it just downloaded it, and it downloaded it into Word. For me, it downloaded it into Word, and it put it in this horrible font, Gungshu. So I don't know. I'd have to fix that or something, but. You could certainly just, if you did that, and it messed this up too, messed up my tab. I think that's because of the font. So if it was all in a decent font, I have no idea why it changed that font when I did it in Times New Roman. So let me just go back here. Everything's Times New Roman, so I don't know why it would do anything like that. But you could just close it up too and then download it from Google Drive and upload it there, or you could even send me a link to it if you want. But just showing you that there are a lot of the same features in Google Docs. They're not as easy to get to, and in some cases it's a little bit harder. Like I said, I had to use an add-on to just see paragraph returns, and it doesn't show me line breaks. It doesn't show me spaces either. It looks like it's just showing me tabs and paragraph returns. So it's not really a great tool, but it's all you got. Again, Google Docs is for convenience. It's not really meant to be professionally used. It's meant to be easier to share files and collaborate a little bit, but it's certainly not what Microsoft Office is, and I'm sure that's the intent. It's not meant to. It's meant for convenience, so we won't be able to do all our exercises in Google Docs, but we can do this one in Google Docs, and you can see that everything's pretty much the same, just in different places. So get familiar with all those word processing terms and operations and features, because you'll see them in all kinds of programs, whether you use Pages or Word or any other kind of word processing program.